Errol Spence says he's going to smoke Bud Crawford and make the jump to 154. Is that facts or big cap? What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red. But let's talk about it. Alright, the big homie, Errol the Truth Spence Jr. recently put out some info regarding whether he'll be staying in the 147 division, for how long, and the outcome of his big super fight with Terence Bud Crawford. I want to give my deuce and break that down for whoever's listening.
He's definitely going to try to fight. If you know Terence Crawford mentality, he's definitely going to try to fight. He's definitely going to put on a great show and do the best of his ability if you know his mentality. But I just feel like, I'm just a superior fighter. I feel like I'm going to break him physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything. I'm just going to break his will.
All right, so, basically, what did Errol Spence have to say? He said he feels like he's going to smoke him some bud in Vegas. He's going to get super geeked, and he's going to float his way to 154 pounds. I think that's the best case scenario for Errol Spence Jr. Is it actually going to play out in that fashion? I'm not sure exactly if it'll play out, mirror image to that, but I do think he's going to win this fight, and I do think he's going to eventually make the move up to either 154 or 160 pounds. Now, there's some question marks coming into play about him moving up. Number one, we all know that there is a rematch clause in his fight with Terence Bud Crawford. So any plans of moving up in weight, in the very near future, I think are just well wishes on behalf of Errol Spence.
Oh, damn.
Now, that doesn't mean that, there's not a possibility that he'll fight Terence Crawford, beat Terence Crawford, beat him so bad that Terence Crawford won't want a rematch, and just will move on with the rest of his career. That's always a possibility. But I do feel like if Crawford loses, he's going to exercise that rematch, whether he gets, just a slight edge victory by Errol Spence, or if he gets his butt whooped by Errol Spence. I think that Crawford is the type of guy who's going to want to do it again. He's going to want a second fight. He wants that rematch, whether it's just for the money or if he's really going to try to beat this guy, in the rematch.
God already confirmed that they ain't fucking with you like that, man.
Now, whether it's just for the money or not, I'm not sure if that really matters at this point. I think the fight will tell the tale of whether Terence Crawford is just doing this for retirement money.
But my point is, you really don't get old. Like people, I think getting old is a choice. That's why we have to pay attention to our organs and the things we eat. See, I want to be feeling like I feel now at 60, 70, and 80. Because I feel like I did when I was 20, but just like a little smarter. You don't have to grow up when you're the boss. You know what I mean?
Or if he's doing this because he's seriously trying to defeat Errol Spence. Because, there's always been a question of Terence Crawford's resume and, whether Terence Crawford allowed Bob Arum to manipulate his career, with easy wins a little bit too much. And now that he's meeting these bigger, badder challenges, that he only wants money, and he's really not trying to win these fights. He just wants the money out of it. Now, Errol Spence said something, and he's been saying something very interesting, that he feels like he's going to smoke Bud. Like, it's going to be just another night in the boxing ring for Errol Spence Jr. and not a very difficult fight. Now, do I feel like Terence Crawford is just in it for the money, and his mind and his body and his spirit's not in it anymore? He's getting older. I think that Terence Crawford wants to win. I think that Terence Crawford believes in his heart of heart that he has better skills than Errol Spence. But I think that Errol Spence might have caught Crawford at the right time. Timing is everything sometimes in boxing. Look at the Mayweather-Pacquiao situation. I think if that fight happened a few years earlier, Mayweather wouldn't have had a chance, even though a lot of people still feel like Pacquiao won the fight. Mayweather got the victory on his record, so, you can say what you want to say, but it's not going to change the past. When it comes to Spence and Crawford, I think Errol Spence is looking at this, once again, as business as usual. He's going to go in there and handle business and go to 154. If Terence Crawford decides to not exercise the rematch clause, and Errol Spence does decide, like, hey, I'm ready to leave the division, where does that leave Boots Ennis in all this? Because Boots is now being touted as the next big thing at welterweight, and I think if he waits it out, he's going to ultimately become the champion. But, is there going to be a lot of question marks about Boots' resume if he just gets elevated to champion and doesn't have to go through one of these guys to get there?
I'm telling what you scared to say. So I don't like no bullshit.
Now, there's the possibility that Errol Spence beats Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford doesn't retire. He tries to stick around and fight Boots, maybe for a vacated title or something. And, how does that situation play out? Does Boots beat him worse than Errol Spence did? Or does Boots, ultimately try to follow Spence up to 154 pounds and fight him there? Because it would be a big money fight, I think, if they made the fight even at 154 pounds. I think it's just the name that Boots is chasing at this point and not really, the titles. Because if he doesn't stick around 147 after whoever wins, he chases whoever wins to 154 pounds. He's definitely not in it for the titles. He's just looking for the, not clout, but the clout of beating one of these guys.
It's not logical. Like, people want to be like everybody. I don't ever want to be like anybody. I want to be like me. Do anything I can to make sure I look like I have my own point of view.
So at the end of the day, where does that leave Boots? And if Errol Spence beats Terence Crawford convincingly, Terence Crawford doesn't want a rematch, and Errol Spence doesn't fight Boots, does that mean that Errol Spence is ducking Boots at that point? Because if he doesn't have to fight Crawford but was willing to stick around for a Crawford rematch, why wouldn't he fight Boots? Because I think Boots would step in as a very credible Terence Crawford replacement. And, I think the fight would still be worth a lot of money, even though Boots isn't built up as big as a name like Terence Crawford is. But I think Boots' abilities are selling themselves at this point. And, if he was to score a fight with Errol Spence, I think the fight would sell itself. I don't think he would really have to be promoted that much. And the one reason that fighters that are already established in position don't fight these younger guys is because they say the fights are not going to come with a lot of money and these guys don't have established names yet. And, let's do it at this point when their names get bigger because there'll be more money for the established fighter, at that point. But I think when you watch Boots, you can see the talent level is extremely high, and I don't think anybody is doubting his abilities at this point. So if Errol Spence was willing to fight Terence Crawford again, and he doesn't have to, why not get in the ring with Boots? Because I think the fight, once again, would sell very well, perhaps even better than the Terence Crawford fight, because there are so many ifs when it comes to Terence Crawford. If he can show power in the fight, if he can take Errol Spence's power, if he can go 12 rounds with a bigger guy. There's so many ifs surrounding Terence Crawford. There's not a lot of ifs surrounding Boots. Boots is the real deal, and I think he just needs an opportunity to prove it. Now, will he beat Errol Spence? I'm very 50-50 about that fight at this point. Maybe if I see Boots take on someone like Keith Thurman and defeat him, or Virgil Ortiz and defeat him, or perhaps Josh Taylor and defeat him, then I'll be a lot more sold. I'm very sold on Boots, but I'm definitely at the point to where I want to see him versus a a Crawford, a Spence, a Thurman, you know, maybe even a Manny Pacquiao, a bigger name, so I can honestly judge where Boots is at this point in his career.
You know, finally seeing them, a little added motivation in training camp, just seeing your opponent, talking a little bit, hyping it up. I'm ready.
So y'all let me know down in the comment section what y'all think about that. Is Terence Crawford gonna get smoked like good Vegas bud? And is Errol Spence ducking Boots if Terence Crawford doesn't take the rematch? Hit me up down below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. That Facebook, that Instagram, that YouTube, that Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on the tube. So holler at me over there. If you want to collab or feature a product or your channel on my channel, then hit my Gmail, because it is a flack of cards at gmail.com. And we are
riding in the old school, switching lanes. G's in the hood trying to pitch the change. I'm a young nigga trying to get the change. Niggas need money, long live the game. Real niggas getting money on the block, putting in work like they on the clock. See me in the hoods that's known to pop, chillin', waiting on my cell phone to stop. Ringing off the hook, now I need a new phone call. Hit her with some soft and she keep a nigga on hard. But y'all ain't the hard type. Y'all chicks acting like niggas, y'all die.
Late night outside where the G's be pitching. Got weed, got crack, we be selling these bitches. I'm trying to get that guap, so I'm all the way with it. I ain't bullshitting with you, watch me handle my business.
Don't sleep, just eat, nigga.
Handle your business.
Let the teeth go deep, mommy.
Handle your business.
Yeah.
I handle my business.
Get it in, move it out.
I'ma handle my business.
Now here's how it goes when I'm back in town. I walk up in the club with a black and mild. Grab a thick dame, turn that ass around. Tell her if you ain't no better, ask around. Got the number one fly nigga pound for pound. Let the clear disappear, then I down the brown. And you might see me rolling up, shotgun in the ride, and I'm rolling up. Then I'm blowing funk, then I'm posted up, standing next to a car with an open trunk. CDs for the 5, and you know we bump. Willie wheel on the track, then the stack greenback.
Late night outside where the G's be pitching. Got weed, got crack, we be selling these bitches. I'm trying to get that guap, so I'm all the way with it. I ain't bullshitting with you, watch me handle my business.
Don't sleep, just eat, nigga.
Handle your business.
No teeth, go deep, mommy.
Handle